This program is brought to you by the partners of A Rood Awakening International. Help others find truth. Support A Rood Awakening International today.
When you think of pollution, do you think of smog and dirty water? What about negative thoughts, doubt, fear, and distrust in YeHoVaH's plan? Dr. Gail Davis explains the real pollutants in your life that are kingdom killers. Because it's the end of the sixth day, the sun is set, and this is Shabbat Night Live.
As they take this message out into the world.
Shabbat Shalom, Torah fans. It's Shabbat Night Live with Michael Rood. Listen, your thoughts control your actions, including the way you eat, whether you get sick or not, and how effective or useless you are for the kingdom. Dr. Gail Davis is a retired dental professional, but life was a mess for her, and she's going to share how she cleaned it up so that you can do the same before you fall into the same pitfalls. Well, hey there, Tiffany Panaccio, how are you?
Shabbat Shalom, Scott. I'm doing well. How are you?
Shabbat Shalom, yes. I'm liking this new format of Shabbat Night Live. How about you?
I like it too.
It moves along and you're like, wow, I gotta pay attention. I can't leave my chair because I'm gonna miss something.
My kids are able to sit through the episodes too. So
well, there's a bonus, all right. Now, speaking of missing things, so the calendar here, make sure you get your astronomically and agriculturally corrected biblical Hebrew calendar. We had them on pre-sale. Now they're in the mail. We've got them. They look beautiful. Everybody's getting them. But that doesn't mean you've missed out. You can still get it, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep, so look on the bottom of your screen right there. That is how you can get your calendar. And speaking of getting things, we have 1 week left to get this love gift. I mean, we're already at that point.
This month has flown by.
Yeah, so what's the deal with the table runner? You had sourced these things for the ministry. What caught your attention with this?
I mean, it's just beautiful. It's made by an Israeli-American artist named Yael Resnick. And this is Jerusalem Hill, so it's a beautiful painting. I'm an artist too, so I love to paint. I fell in love with it. I thought it was beautiful. And as a mom, it needs to be functional too. So it's a trivet. You can put your hot pots and whatever on there and make a really beautiful setting for when you have company over, even just on Shabbat for your family.
And the most surprising thing, if you feel it, it's like a mouse pad. It literally is like a mouse pad. That's what it feels like.
Or you can use it for that.
Yeah, or you can
you have a giant desk.
With a really big monitor that you need to go across. But no, there's only a week left to get it, so if you're thinking about that, get it. And it's just our way of saying thank you for supporting the ministry. That's just the way we like to do it. So, Dr. Gail Davis shares her personal story of triumph and how she unraveled the pollutants from her home, her dinner plate, and especially the junk in her mind controlling it all. Before we get into that, let's get into the Kiddush. Here's Michael Rood.
When Yeshua fed the 5,000 with leavened barley loaves in the Galilee, the Pharisees came down on him because they accused him that he and his disciples did not wash their hands before they ate bread. They did not wash their hands with a negelvesser and say this prayer, "Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctified us by your commandments, commanding us concerning the washing of hands." Why didn't Yeshua do that? Why didn't his disciples follow that? Because it is takanot. It is a law which they invented, and Moses said no one is ever allowed to add to or subtract from. But the night of the Last Supper, Yeshua took bread and he put in place a rehearsal that was really put in place by the Kohen Gadol, the high priest after the order of Melchizedek. Melchizedek himself brought forth bread and wine to Abraham. And Yeshua interpreted that very thing. Baruch atah YeHoVaH Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem mi'aretz. This is what Yeshua put in place, that before we eat bread, that we say this prayer. And as often as we do this, we do it in remembrance of him, because his broken body was broken for us, and by his stripes we were healed. So as often as we do this, as often we do it in remembrance of him. And Yeshua took the cup and he said, Baruch atah YeHoVaH Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei Pri Hagafen. The creator of the fruit of the vine, YeHoVaH, created the fruit of the vine. He said, this represents the renewed covenant in my blood. As often as you do this, remember me. And remember, I will be drinking this with you at the marriage supper of the Lamb. Shabbat Shalom.
We all plan for eternity, right? I mean, this life is but a breath, it's a mist, and then we are gone. But while we are here, it seems to me that what we do on this earth determines our eternity. So it would behoove us to look after this life, right? And that's not only our actions, but our thoughts. And our thoughts are governed by the way we live our lives and vice versa. So we better pay attention to this vessel, which is why we are having our guest here today. We're going to talk all about this, our thought life, our hopes, our fears, what we eat, how we take care of this body so that we can generate something that is eternal. Okay, so we're going to be talking with Dr. Gail Davis today. Dr. Gail, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me again.
Yes, you were on our Health Awakening, and that's where we discovered that we wanted to get into this huge topic. And in fact, we're going to go through 3 presentations that you have today. And we discovered that we got on such a same page that we just talked each other's ear off, and before you knew it, the whole episode was gone.
I know. Yeah.
So we needed to come back and actually do a whole series on Shabbat Night Live. So we really want to kind of flesh this out.
Okay.
And just really kind of dive deeper into what affects us and you know, get into your book. You have a new book called The War on Health, which you have right over there.
Yes.
First of all, so people can get this, where is that available, by the way?
It's available on Amazon.
Okay.
It's available on my website, waronhealth.org. And it's available at Books A Million as well as Barnes & Noble.
Okay, now you call it a war on health because this is a spiritual battle, right? I mean,
yes.
Is that where this comes down to?
Absolutely, spiritual battle. Ever since we were dumped on this earth out of our mother's womb, we've been in a spiritual battle. I didn't know it at the time, and none of us do, but it's been a war between good and evil since that time. So yeah, that's why I call it.
Because Satan wants to destroy us, and he'll use certain people on this earth as tools to destroy us. We'll get more into that on future episodes and really realize what's going on here, because it's not a conspiracy theory, it is conspiracy against us, and we need to recognize that.
Yeah, let's get that straight, right?
Yeah, exactly. Ain't no theory here, it's a conspiracy.
It's the real deal, yeah.
So now you wrote the book and you did all these things because of an experience that you had. Now if people didn't watch the Health Awakening with you on it, you were a root canal specialist?
Correct.
Okay, so you're a dentist. And was that a particularly stressful thing? I mean, what was it that caused you to fall into illness? Maybe just give us your story here.
Yeah, it's very stressful job. Well, first of all, the reason why I became an endodontist is because my mother told my sister and myself, you guys have to become doctors. She's a physician. Okay. And we were like, okay, you know, you're our mom, you know what's best, so okay. Well, little did I know I couldn't stand the smell of hospitals, and little did I know she could not smell the smell of the dental office. So I became the dentist, she became the physician. But dental school was stressful. The whole curriculum was stressful. It really was. And then having my own practice and teaching for a while, and it's just not as glamorous as she thought it was. And I experienced that. And my health took a toll on me, you know. You try to give it all your all, and you try to, you know, make a career out of it and just do the very best that you can. You know, I wasn't competitive or anything like that, but I always wanted to, and I was not one to keep up with the Joneses or anything like that, but I was one to just wanted to do a good job, have a good sustainable practice, caring about my patients, etc. Working long hours, and you know, I really wasn't casting my cares and my attentions on the Lord at that time. I was trying to do everything in my own strength, and that's when my body broke down. Yeah, and that's one of the tricks of the enemy. I mean, we'll get into a little bit later in this series too, but
the distractions of the world. And I mean, no wonder Yeshua warned us about the cares of this world, because it's going to separate us from God. It's that our lifeline, he's trying to cut that umbilical cord.
Yeah.
He being Satan, trying to cut that umbilical cord so that we don't have that strength to pull on, and then we end up trying to do it ourselves and we fail.
Right, right. Instead of doing it God's way.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know how to do that until I met a coach that helped me through that. But I wish I had known that from the very beginning. It would have saved me a lot of headaches, and probably wouldn't have gotten ill, only to tell my story now. But
so now when you got ill, what was the illness? What happened?
Well, basically, I just watched my body break down from stress, fear, all those negative emotions, is this gonna work? Am I gonna have enough to pay the girls? What about my staff? If I say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, because I was getting referrals from doctors. So I had to be on my P's and Q's and I've never been one to suck up to people. I just can't do that. But that's kind of what I had to do. Take them out to lunch, schmooze them and all of that, and do cases that I knew were wrong. So my integrity was on the line there, and it's challenging because, you want to make sure the bills get paid, So those kinds of things made it stressful. So like I said, my body broke down. So it was a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. I had thyroid issues, fatigue, exhausted all the time. You name it, I had it, I tell you. And if I hadn't taken a toll on, what was going on, an inventory, if you will, then I know for sure I would have ended up with a diagnosis I didn't want to hear. It could have easily led to that. Knowing what I know now, absolutely.
So at a certain point, you kind of reached rock bottom and went, I've got to make a change here, or something's not right. You mentioned a health coach who helped you realize something was not right, or a health coach, or a coach, you said?
It was actually a business coach, because we are not taught how to do business in dental school or medical school, probably law school either. I just knew how to just do teeth. So I didn't know how to do the business aspect. And so it was God that actually put this man in my path, who became my coach. And he showed me how to do business God's way. So he had offered classes called biblical entrepreneurship classes, like 3 of them. So I took 2 of them and kind of studied under him. And he coached me through my my journey in my business, like for all these 15 years. Is that crazy? From the very beginning to the end of when I retired.
And did something click where he talked about your health and said that you're wearing yourself into the ground, or what happened here?
Yeah, well, he showed me how to do business God's way and what God really expects from business. And the main thing that I took away from that is that you have to let the Lord, Yeshua, Yahweh, Ruach HaKodesh, you have to let them be in the driver's seat. They need to be the CEO of your practice, not you.
Very important.
So when I put that into motion, it made it easier. There were challenges, but he walked me through it. The Lord walked me through it, and my practice became a testimony for others, coming through, and it was like a spiritual. I should say like a spiritual walk for me, where I kind of I was tested. So I had to grow up in the things of the Spirit. And I had to dialogue a lot with the Lord. He taught me a lot through the process. I didn't always like it, but the tactics of the enemy were coming at me daily. So I had to learn how to fight back.
Gotcha.
And he taught me that.
Instead of trying to figure it out yourself, you would pray and get a download of what to do? Is that essentially what? Pretty
much, yep. That's what I would do. And, my health broke down physically, so you could see it. I had horrible allergies, and I had conjunctivitis, broken blood vessels in my eyes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, hives, a lot of things like that. And so you could see it. So, and I didn't know what it was, didn't know where it came from, went from doctor to doctor, only to learn the only true physician It's Yahweh himself. But you do your due diligence. And I did that, you know, but they didn't know.
So they went to doctors, they didn't know what to do. So where did you discover what to do? What actually worked, and how did you get there?
Well, I had gone to lunch one day at Whole Foods. I'm thinking that's a healthy place, right? Went to the salad bar and got some tofu. Now, I know tofu had, you know, some things said about it and it wasn't good, but I thought it was good at the time, you know? I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know it was genetically modified, any of that. Came back to the office and I had just a rash. I just broke out, my eyes all over. And my assistant at the time said, you know, Dr. Davis, maybe it's something you ate. And I said, maybe it is. So I just got on the computer and I started looking up soy. And that's where it all began.
Really?
And I discovered that I had leaky gut. That was the number one thing. The doctors couldn't tell me that. I even went to naturopaths. They didn't really know. I discovered that and read on my own. So, yeah, and the Lord led me to that.
You know, that's interesting. A lot of people don't recognize how prevalent that is, that what we eat affects our whole health because of the whole leaky gut thing. People are like, oh, leaky gut, well, big deal. So I got a leaky gut. I got a leaky pipe in my house, big deal. Well,
yeah,
but
right.
When you have a leaky gut, people don't realize that allows, it's like a balloon expanding, right? And at a certain point, the balloon gets weak, and then you get these microscopic holes, and that's where the leaky gut comes in.
I know, I didn't know that.
Right, and now you know, right? So
yeah.
now we're preaching to the choir here, but that's where these proteins, these undigested proteins escape.
Yep.
And of course, what is an allergic reaction? An allergic reaction is a reaction to a foreign protein.
Right.
So now you get this autoimmune condition because your body is overreacting to these foreign proteins. That's where a lot of autoimmune conditions come from, is from a leaky gut.
Isn't that something?
It is, yeah.
It's more prevalent now. So I'm talking, what, 15 years ago? You know, maybe 20 years ago. But it wasn't talked about. Not a lot of people knew about it.
Right.
At all. And then I should also admit that, you know, I was woofing down my food and really didn't take lunch breaks because I wanted to make that money.
Oh, yeah.
I could see that patient, you know, squeeze them in right over there. That's not a good idea to do.
No, not even standing. You know, I have a stand-up desk at home, and sometimes when I think, okay, well, I'll just eat while I'm working, that's fine.
That's not good either.
No, because when you're standing up, I mean, I notice my heart racing if I'm standing up and eating. I'm much better just to sit down, get away from the computer, and just not do anything, just for 20 minutes.
Right, and just chew your food,
yes,
right? Just
exactly.
Chew. Now, nobody's gonna chew 30 times. I mean, that's a bit overkill, but we're supposed to chew.
Right.
Get those salivary glands going and the digestive enzymes are doing what they're supposed to do, but, you know, just woofing it down. Okay, lunch is over.
No.
And then drinking water or whatever it is dilutes all the enzymes.
Yes.
So,
I wonder how many people recognize that. You know, don't drink a whole lot of water with your food.
Right. After is okay, but not with. Right.
Exactly, because you're going to dilute the stomach acids. Right. And if you haven't got time, we'll make a smoothie. Chop it up first.
There you go.
Drink it.
Just drink it.
Exactly.
But even that one too, you want that around in your mouth, swish, you know, the taste buds and all that.
Yeah.
You know, so that the digestive enzyme can also, you know.
Right, because what you have in your mouth, that cues the stomach to start its juices.
Exactly, yeah.
If you've watched Shabbat Night Live for any length of time, you know we're always talking about something called the love gift. What is that? Well, it's what allows you to see this show right now. Seriously, that's why we talk about it all the time. The love gift is just that, a gift to say thank you and we love you. Really. I mean, without your love and support, this program cannot happen. So yes, we love you, and we want to give you something back when you give your hard-earned money to A Rood Awakening, because we appreciate that. And you might not know this, but when we invite a guest to do a series on Shabbat Night Live, we ask them to reserve an extra special teaching for the love gift teaching, something that is not broadcast anywhere. In fact, you can't get it anywhere except for the love gift. And because of that, you get some pretty controversial teachings that we literally cannot put anywhere else. So if you'd like an extra special teaching for your extra special donation, go to monthlylovegift.com. We'll give you the teaching and even some unique gift items on top of that. Plus, it changes every month. So go ahead and see what's new right now at monthlylovegift.com. So at a certain point, you discovered the alkaline acid imbalance that you were experiencing. When did that become an aha moment, and how did you discover that?
You know what? I think it was just on the journey, or it could have been, you know, when I was working with a naturopath. I think that's what it was, because I had to do a food journal of everything that I was eating. And I didn't learn that in dental school. And I know medical school doesn't teach that. So I had to learn it, on my journey with him. But I'll be talking about that later on the slides.
Oh, okay.
Presentation, I'll hit that.
All right, cool. So what did you learn about that, about alkalinity?
Oh, that the body had to be acid and alkaline, but more alkaline. More basic than acidic. But see, what happens is that acidity comes from your toxic thoughts. I mean, I didn't know that. Acidity comes from unforgiveness. Didn't know that either. I thought it came from food primarily. But then, when you have a lot of emotional issues, you go to the sweets, those comfort foods.
Yep.
And a lot of that's acidic.
The dopamine stuff, like chocolate, makes you feel good.
I mean, wasn't really drinking water. Not really. And if I was, that was probably acidic with all that plastic and, all of that. Because I didn't know anything about drinking out of glass bottles and alkaline water, And salads, didn't eat a whole lot of that. It was a meat eater, eating at McDonald's or wherever. So my body was acidic. And it has to be that balance to be in homeostasis.
Yes, indeed it does. And, it's funny you mentioned, so eating meat, people will go, wait a minute, I thought that eating plants was healthier. And well, it is to a point, but then if people go vegan, I can speak from experience. I was a vegan for 10 years. Were you? Okay, so, and you know that we gravitate to more, okay, well, as long as it doesn't come from an animal, I'm okay.
Yeah,
and then start going all these crazy made up foods and things that look like a hot dog, but aren't a hot dog, and all this kind of stuff.
Right, exactly.
And then it's more unhealthy than actually eating meat. And that was the thing too, about 15, 20 years ago. You couldn't get a grass-fed steak at Walmart.
No.
Now you can.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think all those studies that were done and all the imbalances and all the problems people had with meat was not meat.
Right.
I mean, they ate meat in the Bible. It's because of what the meat ate before you ate it. That makes a big difference.
Huge, huge.
Yeah.
So now I don't deprive myself or starve myself when it comes to meat. I eat meat.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of it, And I remember the Lord said to me one day, don't be so religious about food. I'm like, really? Religious? Now, those were not my thoughts. Those were definitely coming from the Lord. But I was being religious about food.
Yeah.
Because I was driving myself crazy.
Well, you can imagine, like, all these diets kind of turn into mini religions.
I know.
Right? Like veganism and carnivore and, anything like that.
Fruitarian and all of this.
Like all that kind of stuff. Where they kind of stick to this very thing and just don't tell me anything I don't want to hear. I just want to hear the good things about fruit. Exactly. And I'll be a fruitarian. No, you can't do that.
No, can't do that. And plus, you know what? I discovered I need to eat according to my blood type.
Yeah.
And we O positive people, we like our beef.
Yep. Yeah,
and I was anemic.
Really? Okay, well, that makes sense.
Okay.
See, and again, those things, not any one of these things is a be-all, end-all.
Right.
But it's, I'm a B positive is my blood type.
Okay.
So I'm more towards the maybe vegetarian and fish and that kind of, and of course, and that's where you feel better.
Right.
So you do need to know what your blood type is and all that type of thing.
Yeah, and one thing too with the O positive, dairy was a no-no, wheat was a no-no, and soy was a no-no.
We're going to talk about wheat later in this episode, or in this series, because that's very interesting. When you gave me a little glimpse of what you've got to say about that and how Satan is tricking people into manipulating the wheat. I'm not going to give it away.
I have problems with that, I tell you, because I missed bread. Yeah. I like bread.
And there's nothing wrong with bread if we make it the way it was made in biblical times.
Exactly.
Now we screw it all up. We had a guest up here at one time, Sue Becker. One of the most, have you ever heard of her?
No.
So Sue Becker, she runs a website called breadbakers.com.
Oh.
And bread, it's a play on bread bakers. But she has discovered that we're doing bread wrong. If you get the wheat berries whole, grind only what you need to make that loaf of bread and immediately make that loaf of bread, it is a completely different story than taking flour out of a bag. Yep. And that's an incredible revelation, because now we're making bread, especially if we're doing it from organic or heirloom seeds. Now we're making it the way it was meant to be in biblical times. Now we're much, much closer to what bread is supposed to be instead of what we have today.
See, I thought it was like the sourdough was closest.
And that's essentially
This sounds different than sourdough.
No, it is though, it is. But you have the sourdough starter, of course, but then you just grind what you need for that day instead of grinding a whole bunch and putting it in a bag and waiting. That's where the issue comes in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize
But
that.
yeah, something as simple as that, and it's like we think we're making things more convenient and we're not, and it leads to everything. Now, we were mentioning too that the gut affects the brain and the thoughts and everything. Of course, your gut is your second brain. I think everybody knows that. But to what extent, I don't think they really understand. I mean, how can it affect the mind? Like we talk about having the mind of Christ. Does that really get into what we eat? I mean, does that affect that, do you think?
I think it's the chemicals, yes, in the food that do affect that. I personally think that. Like they were designed and targeted for the heart or either the brain, and it affects it that way.
Right.
That's what I feel like, yeah.
So even what we eat can affect our spirituality?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah,
Wow.
I think so, yes.
So now, and no one's going to tell you this, so I mean, I think we only have about a minute left here, but would you say that, is everyone responsible for their own health? I mean, my pharmacist friend says you have to be the CEO of your own health. Would you agree?
You do. Oh my gosh, yes, you do. Because really, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. But I feel like the hospitals are like a death trap. I mean, you're going in there with no knowledge. They can do anything to you. Like, you don't know what they're gonna do. You don't even know if you're gonna come out alive.
Right. And of course, they're going to do their due diligence, and they're very dedicated to. I mean, there's people of faith working in there too, but stuff happens.
Stuff happens. You just better know Yeshua. That's all I got to say. I'll say that. Okay.
Okay. We're going to talk more about this, about taking responsibility for yourself, and even just using your words, literally saying your words, and that has an effect on our mind and our spirituality as well. So
absolutely,
yeah.
it does.
You had an attack on your mind, and you wanted to bring out some points about what that was, just so maybe other people see that and go, oh, that's kind of like me.
Right.
So you kind of outlined the attack on your mind. So what are we seeing on the screen here?
Okay, well, first of all, I just want to say that the foods that I was eating, because of the chemicals that were in the food, they made me have wacky emotions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, so that affects your mind, just so you know that. So basically, toxic stressors, they were activated by the fear of me not getting better. I was scared. I mean, I was really scared. Even though I cried out to the Lord, you still have what ifs. What if this,
what if I can't fix this? What if
what happened, So I was fearful, Toxic, harmful, destructive, and poisonous thoughts, they can come from the toxic food that I ingested, which is what I just said. And toxic thoughts, that came from toxic memories from my childhood, that I had to learn how to forgive. But they still plagued me, Yeah. And from all the wrong thoughts, my emotions were ruling instead of me ruling them.
Aha.
And I was a basket case, so.
Well, and like you said, that's when you were trying to run your practice all by yourself.
Yeah.
And, instead of taking every thought captive, every thought was taking you captive.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But I learned some things.
Okay.
I learned some things. And I learned that when my emotions are allowed to rule unchecked, like I'm not taking them captive, like what you just said, they mix truth and fact. Or maybe I should say the enemy will use that to mix truth and fact.
So you mean like, my wife gives heck to me all the time. You're full disclosure here. Sometimes she'll say, you're making up things in your mind that aren't real. You're making up scenarios, what ifs, that don't exist.
Exactly.
And you're taking yourself there and living in that.
Yeah.
You can't live there. That's not real.
Right.
Is that what was happening?
That's it. Because what is fear? False evidence appearing real. That's the acronym.
I like that. False evidence
appearing real.
Fear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the enemy plays on that, Until you are on to him, then you know better. So I also learned that my body functions optimally in homeostasis. That's that acid and alkaline balance. But it can be disrupted by these toxic thoughts that we just talked about and emotions, which can cause structural changes all the way down to the cellular level, because your cells are affected.
And that can go either way with food, right? Because food can cause that. And then, like you mentioned earlier, if you are feeling bad and you're panicked, you can end up eating foods that you know are gonna make you feel better, but then they're not the best choices either. So now it's just the spiral going down.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then you can grind your teeth. I mean, just in the dental part, you know, clenching and grinding is from stress. I think I'd had a little bit of that going on too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I also learned it's never too late to do something about what's going on inside your body and mind. You know, there's always hope. Because you can do what? Repent.
Right.
Come back to the Lord. You know, and I did. And I saturated myself, you know, with the Lord and dialoguing with Him, getting to know Him and His Word. That helped me a lot.
Hey, Torah fans, I just want to take a minute on behalf of everyone here at A Rood Awakening to say thank you. Because without you, nothing happens. No Shabbat Night Live, no MichaelRood.tv app, no social media updates, no new videos on YouTube or Rumble. Without you, no one would see anything from Michael Rood or any of the other guest teachers we have on our programs. There's no corporate safety net with a pile of money in case there's not enough. There's no government grant that keeps things going. And we don't ask companies outside this ministry to pay for commercials. In fact, some have offered and we have declined because that's not the way Yeshua did it. Yeshua's ministry needed donations from his followers. Several times in the Gospels, we see that Yeshua asked the disciples to buy something. Without money, how would they do that? They all left their jobs to follow him. And not to mention, the disciples even had Judas to keep track of the money. We don't like asking you to donate. That's uncomfortable for anyone, but we do want to thank you for doing it. You are the reason for every Rood awakening. Thank you. You've got something about the mind of Christ here as well. Just some Bible verses we maybe need to just keep in mind about what does it mean to have the mind of Christ?
It means really just to have the mind of Christ, you have to spend time with Him. Okay? You have to look at the Word of God, not just with stories. You know, this is His character of who He is. And that's who we are you know, we desire to be, like Yeshua, who died for us. He lives in us. So we want to take on His character, His personality, and think how He would think. Because the more time you spend with somebody, the more they'll allow you to know about them. And He does the same thing. It's like, how hungry are you? I was real hungry. So yeah.
And we were talking about, before we started the cameras on, we were talking about how, I wonder how much, you know, just that, and we're going to talk more about this later too, is are we really using all of our mind? And to walk on water and heal people, and they'll say, yes, Yeshua is divine. We're not disputing that.
Right.
But did YeHoVaH kind of give him the inside scoop on how to use more of his mind? And was he able to manipulate physical things to do the supernatural?
I think so.
Using his mind.
Yeah.
Where we have that capability as well, we just don't use it.
Right.
Because he said, you'll do these same things.
Exactly. And the mind and the heart are connected. So it's the heart, you know, what comes out of the heart, that's what you say and that's what you think, really. So if you think you can walk on water, if you think you can do that, if you know that you can, that's where that faith comes in.
Yeah.
But your mind has to believe it. So there has to be, they have to be in sync, if you will.
And the third part of that is your mouth.
There you go.
So you had something about your daily affirmations.
Yes.
So how did that play into this? Did you realize one day that just thinking about this and thinking about how to get better is not cutting it? I have to say it. I mean, is that what?
Yeah, well, you know, it was when I discovered how our bodies were made, because I was trying to figure out like what was going on with my body. But first I needed to know the special body that God created and how amazing this body was. And He showed me that. So therefore, it's like, I never thought of myself as energy. You know, I always wondered why when, you know, you're folding clothes in the dryer and you get shocked, you know, or drying clothes or whatever. Yeah, like why did that happen? Well, we're electrical, you know, and that's who God made us to be, because we're made in His image. He's energy. Right? So therefore, he spoke everything into existence. That's a frequency of His voice. And it was so, right? So that's why it's important for us to speak with our mouths, because He lives in us. So therefore we have His voice, His frequency as we speak. Now, I could have read these affirmations to myself, but it's more power when you speak it out loud and you hear yourself. And it's going into the atmosphere, and it reaches the second heaven where the enemy is, and all the way up to the third heaven. So it's the atmosphere.
And if we have any doubt of that, all we have to do is look in the Bible and look where Yeshua, healed people of demons. He didn't just lay hands on them. Certain people, he laid hands on them and they became well.
Yeah.
But with the demons, he spoke and said, come out of him. Right?
Yeah.
He commanded that. So he literally used the power of his voice. And there's something there.
Absolutely.
Even if we don't understand it. I often think, I don't know what you think about this, but a lot of times people take supplements based on information I've given them about their health and that kind of thing. And or you used to fix teeth and that kind of stuff. But, how often do we really think that, words can help heal as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All the time. So the doctor gives you a bad diagnosis. Well, what does the Lord say? He died on that cross, a brutal death, and he took all of that upon himself. So we don't have anything. We have his divine DNA. That can shift at any given time. It's energy that can shift. It may look that way, but he can shift it. So I would believe his report.
Yeah.
And when you keep saying it, like, I don't have so-and-so. I don't care what you see on the x-ray. I don't have it. You're speaking it, and it's like, I don't know the science behind it or but it'll shift. It shifts the atmosphere. It's amazing. Yeah. I've heard too many testimonies where people just spoke what Yeshua says, what the Word of God says, and when they go back and they demand, the Lord will say, retest. It's gone.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I'm sure our audience has seen that. So if we've all heard of this, why do we deny it? Why do we think, oh, that's just maybe a 1 in a million chance? No, listen.
Too simple.
Yeah, exactly. And I think frequency medicine.
Yes.
I was mentioning dentistry before and supplements and all that. I look forward to the day that one day we consider that archaic. Remember we used to take pills of magnesium because it was good for us?
Yeah.
Now we know frequency medicine is the future. I mean, you just have to look at one episode of Star Trek and see that,
all that stuff's
favorites coming to fruition.
Right.
Like, well, yeah, if they thought one day we'll be able to heal just with this little frequency coming from this little gadget, well, why not? Why not?
I know people that are doing it.
Yeah.
I know people that are doing it, like with those lasers, specific type lasers. They're doing that.
Yeah.
Taking away pain, all kind of cool stuff. It's amazing.
And of course, pharmaceutical industries don't want us to do that. We're going to get into that as well, by the way. So we're going to talk all about that because that is a part to play in this because pharmakia, Satan, sorcery, this all ties in. And if you think, well, drugs doesn't mean sorcery. Yes,
it does.
Yeah. So what Revelation is talking about sorcery? Yeah, that's what we're talking about. You are living in it. So we need to realize these things. And speaking of realizing these things, I kind of distracted from the daily affirmation. So why don't you take us through what you used to, or what you still do, read to yourself.
So I just speak out loud. Heavenly Father, I want to glorify you in my body and my spirit. Help me to always remember that I belong to you. Lord, as I gain more knowledge about how to eat, help me to develop self-control and the patience to persevere. Heavenly Father, I commit my ways to you. Help me to make the lifestyle changes that will give me a healthier body, mind, and spirit. I am trusting you, and I know you will bring it to pass. That's key to trusting him. No matter what the situation looks like, he's got you, and he's got this.
Right. Whether it's health, whether it's business stress, whatever.
Whatever.
We need to just declare and give it to him. And I've said this story on the stage many times, but it was when I was going through the whole immigration citizenship process that I went through. There was a lot of times it was very stressful. You thought you were going to be tossed out of the country and all this just for no reason.
Yes, absolutely.
And that changed the way I prayed. Instead of please God this and please God that, it was affirmations like this. It was declaring things in his word and saying, I know you say this, I believe that, and it's going to happen just the way you said it. Not because I'm saying it and there's some power there, but because I'm repeating what your word says and I believe it.
Right,
And
exactly.
he honors that, and he goes, you get it.
Yep.
Here.
And you're thanking him for it
Yes.
because it's already done.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly. And then the whole thing about, I don't know how many people pick up on this, but the believe and do not doubt.
Yes.
That's important.
Right.
Because the minute you start doubting, you start fearing. And we're going to get into fear, and that's a whole other kettle of fish.
It is. It is.
Yeah. So now we talk about pollutants too, because we can eat all the vegetables that we want, and even healthy meats like we mentioned before, the grass-fed, organic. That's the stuff you want to do. Wild caught, all these kind of things that are fed properly. That's the kind of foods you want to eat. But there's pollutants that we say, oh yeah, of course, pollution. Yeah, of course, I see the smog in the air and that kind of thing.
And the chemtrails.
And the chemtrails, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's another episode. Yeah.
Right.
But there's pollutants even in our home, like that new car smell, that new carpet smell. Those are bad smells.
That's
pollutants. Tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, even the shower curtain, the vinyl shower curtain.
Never thought about that one.
Yeah, it's formaldehyde. So it's called off-gassing, right? So pollutants such as like benzene from cigarette smoke, copy machines, because I used to teach at Howard University, a university, so in a basement confined to where amalgams were just being drilled on all the time. A lot of people getting sick around there, including me.
Sure, there wasn't a hyper-efficient air-to-air exchanger down there either.
Just an exit door, that's it. Cleaning compounds, paints and formaldehyde from carpet, carpeted areas can create a condition called sick building syndrome. So I was in a sick building, and most everyone is exposed to at least one pollutant every day.
Well, even in your kitchen. I mean, I don't know how many people, I've just realized this recently.
Yeah.
Someone told me that there's formaldehyde in your new kitchen cabinets.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, and you know how everybody, at least in the South here, we're very concerned about radon coming up from a gravel or a dirt crawl space into the home. So a lot of us, including at my house, we have a radon fan taking that out.
Oh, really? Okay.
Think about your countertop. What is it made of? If it's granite, it's a rock. Rocks off-gas radon.
Oh my gosh, I never thought of that.
So there's a lot of stuff we don't think about that is toxic in our homes.
And we're spending time in our homes, and like you were saying, working in our homes since COVID. Everybody's, working from home.
Or what's in your mattress that you sleep 8 hours a night on? I haven't thought about that one. I have to admit that. I'm guilty of that. I've got this nice, memory foam mattress. Well, maybe I shouldn't be having that. Maybe I should need to revisit that.
Exactly. Even the furniture. There's chemicals in the furniture. I mean, we're just bombarded. That's why we have to take care of our body systems, because the liver is so overburdened from all these toxins. The least we can do is feed it some good food, some good healthy food.
And never mind what's in the air outside. Have you ever noticed how good you feel in the springtime when you open up the windows and let the air just flow through the house and you feel better?
Yes.
Well, it seems to me if you feel better opening the windows, that the air outside is better than what's in your own house.
Yeah, chemtrails or not.
Open up the windows, chemtrails and all, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
But God is so good that He has created these plants, right? Air purifying plants against pollutants.
Oh.
Some really cool ones. I actually have had one or two of these is aloe. Aloe removes that formaldehyde you were talking about and benzene. And its gel can be used, obviously, for cuts and burns. And then you have spider plants that also remove benzene and formaldehyde, even carbon monoxide and xylene. So a single spider plant can effectively filter a room of 200 square feet.
Wow.
And then you have something called a weeping fig. I've never heard of that, but it removes xylene, trichloroethylene, formaldehyde, and benzene. And then you've got a Boston fern. It's a natural air humidifier, removing formaldehyde, and is almost the best air purifying houseplant.
So have a
They're
Boston
more than
fern
these,
winter.
though.
Wow.
Yes, they're more than these, way more. It's just amazing, though.
See, we're going to continue more next week because we're out of time today, but we've just scratched the surface.
Okay.
So we're going to talk more about this next week and the connection with sickness and how Satan uses people to perpetuate that sickness upon us.
Yes, all day long.
As tools, yes. All right, so Dr. Gail Davis, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. We will see you next week on Shabbat Night Live. Until then, get a fern, get a weeping fig or aloe or whatever, put it in your house, okay? We'll see you next time. Shabbat Shalom. Have a good week.
Whenever and wherever you are watching this broadcast, it represents hundreds of man-hours of production and post-production, and then it goes out to the world in several different languages. Why is this possible? It's because people like you support this ministry. We do our best to get this out freely to the entire world. Freely you have received. Now, this is your opportunity to do as Yeshua said, and freely give. Shalom, Torah fans. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Tap the subscription button and the bell icon. And I promise to update weekly with in-depth biblical research. Be sure to download the new michaelrood.tv app for both mobile and home devices for even more commercial-free content.